Welcome back. I'm PC Peri, and this is part 2 of the Flying Focus Video Collective's Busiversary. Every year, we review shows we produce for the weekly video bus, hence the Busiversary.
And I'm Dan Handelman. Flying Focus stands out by prioritizing human needs and helping the planet rather than selling soap to make the 1% richer. We cover topics such as war and peace, police accountability, economic justice, and the environment.
Our catalog of over 900 programs contains hard-to-find speakers, forums, protests, and interviews. The Busiversary marks 28 years since the first episode of the Video Bus aired in November 1991.
We also prioritize content over slick production values. While you can see and hear the content of our shows, the information is most important. If you want to join us, write down this contact information. Our phone numbers are 503-239-7456 and 503-321-5051, where you can also send us texts.
Or you can email us at ffbc@flyingfocus.org. To be a volunteer with or a supporter of Flying Focus, contact us. Now we'll continue the Busiversary by hearing from producers introducing clips from their shows produced between November 2018 and October 2019.
Continuing on the theme of war and peace, here are clips from the November 2018 100th Armistice Day commemoration. The show includes interviews that were recorded by PC and key moments recorded by our current guest videographer, Joe Anybody. Can you talk a little bit about what you recorded at the memorial and what you remember about it?
Yeah, a bunch of Veterans for Peace, Chapter 72 here in Portland, gather on Armistice Day every year, and I went down to record what they had to say about peace and anti-war.
I like how they point out that Armistice Day is now called Veterans Day, even though the whole point was that the war to end all wars stopped in 1918 on that date.
It was the 100-year anniversary, but they do celebrate this once a year and try to remind people that war is not the answer and the horrors of war.
You'll hear now from several older veterans and one young man who attended. Then the participants start ringing the bells 11 times at 11:11 a.m. on 11/11 Armistice Day.
This is a day that most people are celebrating Veterans Day. This is the 100th anniversary of the end of World War I, in which they signed the Armistice. And in signing the Armistice was supposed to be the end of all wars. Later it was changed where the U.S. government changed it to Veterans Day, and it was celebrating veterans. We already have Memorial Day to celebrate the death of veterans. The whole idea was to basically glorify the veteran, encourage young people to join the military. In my opinion, Veterans for Peace on a national scale all over this country have been reclaiming Veterans Day every November 11th.
Although I was a veteran of the Vietnam War, war is not something that we should be a part of and we need to get rid of.
My dad, who's a Vietnam veteran, is visiting my family and my kids up from Sacramento, and we were hoping to find something that we could do that would commemorate his time in the military and in the war. And so we came across this event and thought it might be a nice thing to come out and engage with. And in coming here, I found out that, yeah, it is the 100th anniversary of the war to end all wars and the treaty that ended it.
I was thinking about the word war, W-A-R, and I finally came to me what it means. And I have a shirt that says it. War, W-A-R, wealthy are richer. That's what war is. That's right. Wealthy are richer.
We ring the bells 11 times to commemorate those people that died. So you ring a bell and you kind of hold that for a minute, you pause and remember for whom those bells toll.
One More War and Peace show, which I taped and produced, featured a talk by Kathy Kelly at Portland Community College in September 2018. This event was another one I helped organize through Peace and Justice Works. Kathy, the co-founder of Voices for Creative Nonviolence and Nobel Peace Prize nominee, spoke about her personal experiences in Iraq, Afghanistan, Yemen, and Palestine. She told personal stories to illustrate how U.S. policy in those countries devastate their people. These clips include Kathy focusing on similarities between Afghanistan and Iraq and how the U.S. supports the Saudi Arabian attacks on Yemen as part of a pattern on both countries' part, trying to control the region's resources. In other parts of her talk, she commented on the connection between war and climate change, told tales of civil disobedience, and even sang a little bit.
ISIS in Afghanistan is sometimes called ISKP, Islamic State of the Khorasan province, and their attacks have been hideous. They recently claimed responsibility for attacking a place where kids go because they want to get into university, and they take courses at 6:30 in the morning, and 69 were killed and so many more wounded. And our good friend Gulumai, somebody Doug and I know well, was in the place at the time, badly traumatized. And so the young people the next day on a phone call were saying, I don't believe in nonviolence anymore. Not the ones we've known for years and years, but new ones who had come to the center looking for answers. Maybe this will seem terribly roundabout, but I was in Iraq at a point when United States soldiers were going up and down the buildings on Haifa Street and just pulling people in to this prison called the Buka Compound. And they didn't know anything about the people except that maybe they were third country nationals, TCNs. And if you were a TCN and you got picked up by the military, you ended up south of Basra in what to me was the worst place in the world I've ever been in. We were spitting flies out of our mouth. So there's Yemen, and isn't it a bit like Manifest Destiny in the United States once upon a time, taking a look at Colorado and Utah and California and saying to Mexico, you know, we'd like to take that land, thank you. It's a land grab, I believe. I believe that Issa Blumi, a professor from Oslo and Stockholm, is correct in saying that the Saudis are ready to bludgeon the Yemenis, bludgeon them into submission in order to take the natural gas, to take the oil, to take the very, very vital ports. And the Crown Prince has said two things that I think he wants to make us shiver. He said, a protracted war is in our favor. He went on national television and told the Saudi people, a long and protracted war is in our favor. Well, certainly it's not in the favor of the hundreds of thousands of Yemeni children expected to experience severe acute malnourishment, or the 1 million identified with cholera, or the United Nations actually doing its count is saying 18 million people in Yemen might die by the end of the year. And still the Saudis bomb an average of 3 times a day.
As usual, I produced a few shows this year about police accountability. I recorded a city council hearing spread out over 2 days in May about a case involving retaliation against a person taking pictures of police. I co-hosted the show with Sam Bouman of KBOO.
Thanks for having me, Dan. So this case centered around a woman who in May of 2017 was taking pictures of police vehicles up by North Precinct at Emerson and MLK. And she was, the vehicles were returning from a CERT engagement, the SWAT team, so it was kind of a militarized look to them. And she gave what was reported by an officer as like a nasty look, and the incident unfolded, and she wound up making a complaint to IPR that excessive force was used against her, that she was retaliated against by being given a jaywalking ticket, and some other allegations. But the one that made it to City Council was the retaliation claim.
Right, and significantly, this was only the third Citizen Review Committee hearing to go to City Council since the group was created in 2002, and it was the first time the City Council agreed to hold the officer accountable.
Yeah, and it was a 3-to-1 vote, and the one vote against was Mayor Ted Wheeler, who, as you'll hear, used some talking points from the police union. The complainant appealed all of those decisions to the IPR's Citizen Review Committee, which is an 11-member volunteer body. The CRC decided to challenge a lot of the Bureau's findings. That led to a conference hearing with the Chief of Police, Daniel Outlaw, in November of last year. They were able to reach an agreement on all but one allegation, and so that had to go before City Council.
The CRC found that Officer A's own statements and the other evidence in the case file require the conclusion that Officer A's decision to issue a citation for jaywalking to the appellant was motivated by her lawful and protected activities of filming and photographing the police, and appearing to express disapproval of certain law enforcement activities.
If we pretend that's actually true, that a middle-aged woman alone with a cell phone surrounded by assault vehicles loaded with weapons is the threat, then he should have contacted me alone to talk. Instead, he made sure that Lieutenant A and Officer B, in fact, ambushed me at the same time with detention for the alleged traffic citation. And that's what makes it retaliation. Let the police get the last word in this process and urge you to ask me questions at the end so that I can tell you what really happened, because of all the people in this room, I'm the only one that was there.
It says Officer A indicated that the appellant's action caught his attention enough where he wanted to at least go talk to her.
Yes.
And so I'm wondering why the initial, I'm here to talk to you, it starts off with giving a citation rather than let's have a conversation about what you're doing.
It's my understanding that it was having a conversation.
This is a process that is prescribed by city charter. And I have serious concerns about this process. I have concerns about having a simple majority of an elected city council being able to overturn the police commissioner, the chief, the independent police review, the internal affairs, the chief of operations, the commander, and the lieutenant on what is effectively an HR disciplinary matter.
I move that we sustain the finding of retaliation.
Hardesty?
Aye.
Udaly?
Aye.
Fritz?
Aye.
Wheeler?
No. The motion carries.
The last show I produced on my own was another police-related topic, a forum held by the Albina Ministerial Alliance Coalition for Justice and Police Reform about the Portland Police Association contract. For context, the contract that the City Council adopted in 2016 led to a protest where police violently pushed people out of City Hall. This time around, the community is trying to get organized earlier to avoid a repeat. You'll hear from Dr. Leroy Haynes, co-chair of the AMA Coalition, Ashley Albies of the National Lawyers Guild, Will Lang of Portland Jobs with Justice, bringing an important labor perspective to the table, and Donna Hayes, whose grandson Quantas Hayes was killed by police in early 2017. Oh, and then there's this guy from Portland Cop Watch who's also on the show. This was the first show we've produced in quite a while, which was recorded by Barb Greene, who'll be back after this clip.
There are some things in the contract that the city allows the union to, police union, to continue to perpetuate that negate the ability to hold officers accountable and to in turn make them accountable not only in deadly force with a police abuse case and death in custody.
Some things must be bargained over under state law, and some things may be bargained over. And that is where employers and unions differ a lot on what those subjects are. There's also a provision of the PECBA, the Public Employee Collective Bargaining Statute under state law, that allows for a public policy consideration. And that's something that I think is important as we go forward in this discussion about the discipline that is implemented against police officers for using deadly force.
In 2016, the AMA Coalition and Portland Cop Watch and the NAACP wrote a letter saying, we want you to put all these things in the contract and take these things out that are harmful to our community. We sent it in August of 2016, anticipating a contract that was going to expire in June of 2017. It turned out in September of 2016 that the contract had already been in the middle of being negotiated and was ready to be presented to City Council already, because we want to make sure this doesn't happen again.
Since Ferguson and all of the Black Lives Matter movement is that this really, the call for people like police officers that have such power of detaining and killing Portlanders and people in our communities means that we need to have more communities say over their contract.
I want to know why cops are allowed to operate tools that they have not been trained to use. Example, Andy Hurst used an AR-15 in February of 2013 in the killing of Hat. He wasn't trained to use an AR-15 until August of 2013, 4 months later. So my thing is, should be something in that contract saying that you cannot use something that you're not trained to use.
So this is a show that I recorded using our old friend Yvonne Simmons' camera. There was a speaker from the International Campaign Against Nuclear Weapons, which won a Nobel Peace Prize, and then I handed the footage over to Barb to edit. What do you remember about that show?
Well, I remember him, and he's in one of these clips. Pretty horrendous stuff about nuclear weapons. It's actually a very interesting show because it has art from Japanese students who interviewed people who lived through the bombing of Hiroshima. Some of which, these paintings are kind of hard to look at. And I realized as I was editing it that these kids spent a lot of time painting that. And then, of course, people actually lived through it, which is pretty horrendous.
今はその自分たちが今その若い世代がその政治とかそういう戦争のこととかにその積極的に興味を持って見ていかないと結局同じことの繰り返しではいけないっていうふうに自分たちが方向を変えていくんだみたいな気持ちを持たないといけないなって思って最近は結構よく見るようになりましたね。そのやってから。
We will witness the world of tomorrows.
I can make a difference.
When I know, I will share. When I share, they will know.
I can make a difference.
Let us offer stories.
Let us determine the world only we will know. Let us carry on.
Nuclear weapons are extraordinarily efficient at igniting over very large areas, essentially everything flammable that will burn. And the largest weapons are still 5 megatons in size. If you put one of those on the centre of this fair city, then an area from Hillsborough to Troutdale and north to Salmon Creek and south to New Era would essentially burn 1,600 square kilometres, more than 800 degrees Celsius, consuming most of the oxygen, and essentially nothing could survive in that area. If just 100 Hiroshima-sized weapons were used in the war between India and Pakistan, less than a third of the weapons that they possess, less than 1/2 of 1% of the global nuclear arsenal, it would put 5 or 6 million tonnes of smoke high into the atmosphere, where it would essentially blanket the inhabited regions of the Earth. And this is as if you took a cross-section through the atmosphere from the South Pole to the North Pole. Very quickly that smoke would go way beyond the area at the bottom, the troposphere where our weather happens, where there are clouds and rain, right up into the stratosphere and beyond, where it would persist for decades, cooling, darkening and drying the global climate.
These next two shows were recorded by PC at the Peace House featuring Reverend Sekou, and they were on the same event, but there was so much good information that Barb decided to cut it into 2 parts. And the first one was about the state of peace today. What do you want to say about that one?
Yeah, so Reverend Sekou is a very interesting person. He's a Christian minister into the Holy Ghost and speaking in tongues and that sort of thing. He's also a musician and an activist and does nonviolence trainings. And like you said, he's talking a bit about the state of peace today. So let's take a look.
Often say the Occupy movement was white folks finding out what black folks been telling them for 500 years. The system's working just fine for a few. And so because the system is working just fine, no matter, the best oftentimes that we can hope for is a benevolent monster. 20,000 bombs dropped by President Obama. He controlled the kill list. First time in the history of the United States that the president is the one who's primarily making the call on who the government will assassinate. Windfall healthcare program for insurance companies. Windfall for them. He stands before a meeting of Wall Street people and he tells them, they're out there waiting with pitchforks for you. I'm the only thing standing between you and them. But still, because the country is obsessed with spectacle, image and symbol, and this is very important to me. I'm not saying that images and symbols are not important. I think they have a certain kind of role. But a symbol is not the same thing, and a sign is not the same thing as a substance. Given that it seems like the best we can hope for is a benevolent monster in this, and that we indeed have a monster in the White House, as I've already said, what is the role of the artist? And what's been, and this is, and for me, emerges in this particular kind of context often as I've retired. In this particular something, I spent 6 weeks in Charlottesville and it broke something in me. I was there when we were in a church and we can't leave because Nazis are outside with torches in 2017. I watched Heather Heyer take her last breath. And you can't out-organize that kind of hate. It's just simply impossible. You can, at best, hold it at bay. So then I decided that I would try to sing my way out. And so what is the task of the artist? I believe the task of the artist in the time of monsters is to remind us all that monsters are not new and they will not have the last word.
And now Reverend Sekou is going to talk about his work with anti-fascists.
Antifa gets a bad rap because mainstream media portrays them as being the equivalent of white supremacists or Nazis or KKK, which isn't true because white supremacists are going out targeting people and committing acts of violence, and Antifa is simply standing up to that. They don't go out looking to commit acts of violence. And so here he talks about how Antifa actually saved his life in Charlottesville.
So we were going to block the entrance to the park. Police was going to arrest us, and then Antifa was going to come in and do their work. So we were supposed to be done at 10 o'clock, right? 10 a.m. was the schedule. The police stood down. So police, Virginia State, literally are standing right here, watching them walk through the streets, and they completely stood down. So we take our little pitiful clergy line, we gonna block, they done broke through it once. So we're gonna go back and try to block it or whatever. Antifa, IWW in particular, comes up to us, and one of them sees me and says, Reverend Sekou, I respect your work. I respect who you are, I'm honored to meet you. But they will not touch you on our watch. So I tried to Martin Luther King them. Well, you know, we're gathered here in the spirit of nonviolence. We must love our enemies. Not on our watch. They won't touch you. So in Victor's Europa, they coming down, it's about 500 deep. And they got bats and shields. So we're standing there, and I'm like, oh, this is it. These white boys about to beat me to death. And people gonna be mad at me because I got Cornel West with me. So I done got Cornel West killed. And then there's a bunch of lesbian preachers, right? Because they was the only ones who had enough courage to come out there. Right? So it's me and a bunch of lesbians and Cornel West about to get whooped by I was making some bad choices. Is what I was doing. Somebody needs to talk to me. Give me a good talking to. So they coming for us, and IWW see them. They make a line to block them, and went to work, beat the shit out them Nazis, so we could get our line out. They saved my life. I'd be dead if it wasn't for Antifa.
While we're wrapping up thinking about all the people who helped us this year, we are always thinking about those who are no longer with us. This concludes the 28th Busiversary. Thank you for watching.
One of our goals at Flying Focus is to get people information they can use to go out and make the world a better place.
Well, thank you, Moss Drake, for coming out, our director. If you want to volunteer with and or help support Flying Focus in any way, call 503-239-7456 or 503-321-5051, which also now works to receive text messages. You can also email us at ffvc@flyingfocus.org. All 27 of our past Busiversaries and dozens of our other shows are streaming on the web at flyingfocus.org.
The Flying Focus Video Bus airs every week in the same time slot. Set a video recorder or tune in for more news you should use. We'll be here next time.